Gary, welcome.
Thank you.
Today we're going to be focusing on CMMC and a bunch of other topics, which we'll get into in a little bit. My name is Andres Gillis. I'm a client lead here at VSO, and I'm here with Gary. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, Gary Hicks. I don't have a cool name like Andres. I'm the VP of Public Sector here at VSO, so I manage all our federal business as well as our SLED business. We're split about 50-50 between commercial and our public sector business, so I run all that business and am also the CTO for public sector.
So I would say let's just get straight to business, Gary.
Yep.
What is CMMC? Why is it so critical? Why is everybody talking about it now? Obviously focused on the DIB industry. Is there any guidelines, any timelines that we need to know about? Let's just get kind of right to it. What is CMMC?
Yeah, so CMMC is the cyber maturity model basically for the government to institute a way to protect what's called CUI data, Controlled Unclassified Information. It used to have different names in the past, but they wanted to standardize it and make sure that the defense industrial base, really the companies, services companies, product companies that work with the federal government, was protecting their information and data in an appropriate manner. So CMMC was put out for that specific process to make sure that, hey, here's what CUI is, and here's how you must protect it. And there's a couple different levels that I think we'll go into later around how that process works, how the certification works, et cetera.
So Gary, what role do those third-party assessments, what role do they actually play in CMMC for the DIB organizations?
So really the way that they're working is what it used to be when they first came out with it, they said, hey, put in all these controls and self-certify that you're following them. As the program has evolved, people have gotten more comfortable with it. One of the key elements is, especially for people that are going to be level 2, using CUI in their interactions with the federal government, or critical CUI, which is a higher level. VSO as a services company probably isn't ever going to handle critical CUI, but level 2 and level 3 companies must have a C3PAO, which is Certified Third-Party Assessment Organization. So it's really somebody to come in and audit and show that you're doing everything that you need to meet that certification, because before it was self-certification, so it's moved to where it's a trust but verify thing. So now we have the 3 PAOs, they'll come in, they'll validate all your security controls, make sure that you're working effectively to safeguard that data, and then report that back to the government and then allow them to know that that CUI data is being handled appropriately.
And how does VSO make sure that clients go into the room ready?
So one of the things that we do, especially in our managed services, is most of our customers are moving from an on-prem to a cloud environment or in a hybrid environment. And one of the things that we do is we leverage a lot of the tools that the cloud providers have natively, where we can apply CMMC templates. So we put all those controls in place already from day one, so they're prepared. That's one of the areas where cloud actually makes it a lot easier, because on-prem you get so much disparity between this environment doesn't look like this environment, and standardizing that. The cloud allows us to standardize from day one, so they move into an environment that is ready to go from a CMMC perspective, ready for that 3 PAO that we're going to facilitate and help them with.
So getting them ready before the assessor ever
Absolutely.
shows up is the goal.
Yep.
Gary, what are the real implications of non-compliance for these DIB companies and contractors operating in the cloud environment if they don't get CMMC compliant?
Yeah, so one, they're not going to be doing business with the federal government. That is table stakes to do federal business with the DoD specifically, but you'll see it start to leak over, I think, into the civilian agencies where they're going to require the same sort of cybersecurity controls. So first, they're not going to be able to do business. Secondly, it puts them at risk of data loss as part of that, because if you're not handling data appropriately, you're inducing the risk of that. So really, if they don't have a choice, they don't really have a choice but to move to it. So CMMC is going to allow them to continue to operate their business at a high level of security and cyber readiness.
So Gary, how does VSO incorporate the supply chain risk management into the CMMC compliance for these DIB customers in those cloud environments?
So what we do is use a lot of the native tools that are available in the various cloud providers, from AWS, Azure, Google, leverage those tools that allow us to maintain that software security compliance across their entire estate. Because a lot of them are using more than just O365 as part of it. So we're using cloud native tools to make sure that we're managing that supply chain and managing that risk and allowing them to see, hey, you may have a vulnerability here. We need to patch this. And it's part of our entire approach really to DevSecOps at the end of the day, where it's this constant life cycle, and we've just injected cybersecurity into it.
And at VSO, we take care of the whole ecosystem. We don't just focus on, we do the whole.
Yeah, we do. And we have customers in our managed services where we're managing on-prem from this perspective as well as cloud. Most of our customers are looking to go to cloud, and they leverage us to help them with that journey. And this is a key part of it, is making sure that they're doing it in a secure manner.
So Gary, CMMC has evolved. We're now at 2.0, CMMC 2.0. Right. It's simplified the model. And what can you tell us about what are the most important updates on 2.0 and how VSO has adapted the managed services into Azure, AWS, and the likes?
Yeah, I think it's evolved because people have gotten more comfortable with it. And now it's introduced this requirement to have that 3PAO. Like, you used to be able to self-certify everything. Now it's gotten to the point where, hey, this is a real program. We're really serious about this, protecting our CUI data. So you have to work with the C3PAO. And one of the ways that we've kind of, since most of our customers are moving into that cloud environment or exist in that cloud environment, it makes it a whole lot more consistent for us and easier for us to adopt CMMC security controls, hopefully from day one as we move them into it. But if not, we can do an assessment, go back, look at what controls they have in place, which controls they don't have, and work with them to develop those plans to implement those controls.
Okay. So Gary, the threat environment for these DIB customers is serious, and it's getting more sophisticated. What are the top cybersecurity threats facing these customers today?
I think a lot of them are really kind of the same challenges that commercial customers are seeing with ransomware, phishing attempts, things of that nature. But we actually, when you're working with the DIB base, they're actually looking at a lot of state actors, just like Volt Typhoon, Lazarus out of North Korea, all these different hacking groups, if you will. They look to integrate themselves into there and just lay in wait until they have an opportunity to launch their attack. And they're probably right up there with the federal government and their systems as to being attacked. Because if you think about it, these DIB customers are creating the munitions in many cases, the planes, et cetera. So they're just waiting for that type of opportunity to unleash a cyber attack. So we have to make sure that we're protecting them with the appropriate controls as part of our managed service.
Sir, Gary, what is the importance of endpoint detection and response, EDR, in DIB cybersecurity?
So endpoint detection and response is really monitoring everything at the, not only in your kind of core, if you will, but also at the endpoint. And one of the things that we recommend, and most of the CSPs recommend, is going agentless where you can, and then putting EDR specifically at your higher value targets that may not be at the edge. Think of things like Outposts or Azure Stack Hubs. You know, we want to put the EDR on those because they're high value targets for a lot of these bad actors, if you will.
So it's an active defense, not just a monitoring
Correct,
tool.
yeah. And we leverage AI to integrate into that as well, to continue to provide continuous monitoring as part of that, to make sure that you're always protected. And we're constantly looking at that threat landscape and trying to minimize that threat surface as much as we can.
And how does VSO help these DIB customers build and execute that incident response?
So with our experience that we've had in the managed services arena, we've done this many, many times for other DIB customers. So we've kind of been there before and done that, if you will. And especially with all the AI tools that are coming out as part of these frameworks, not just CMMC, but other frameworks as well, the NIST guidance, that is infused into our service templates, automation, things of that nature. And we leverage the AI tools to make that even better and make it more robust.
So credential theft is one of the most common entry points into the DIB industry right now.
Yeah.
What role does multi-factor play in VSO's cybersecurity plan?
So we were one of the early adopters as early as the technology was there for multi-factor authentication, because that's one of the key areas, especially when you start to look at how are you implementing zero trust. Multi-factor authentication is a key thing. I mean, you can't even log into your email anymore that you're not filling out a password somewhere, whether it's your Gmail, your Outlook email, whatever it may be. So we leverage that multi-factor to make sure that we're complying CMMC access, but also zero trust principles to make sure that CUI data is protected. And we leverage things like AWS MFA, Azure's multi-factor authentication as part of Entra as well. So it's a key part. It's really a very simple part of our security, but it's very effective because we've gotten to the point where I could lose my wallet today and it's not a big deal, but if I lost my phone and I don't have the ability to authenticate, or I don't have access credit card, et cetera, it just shows how security is continuing to evolve to protect against other threats.
And all of this is DoD aligned policy?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the zero trust and all its 6 pillars has been out for several years. There's actually a drop dead date to get to zero trust in November of this year as part of that as well. So the multi-factor is a key component of our security strategy. It's one of the main tenets of zero trust as well, and we've been an early supporter of it since it was really available, because it's a key way to protect your data in a secure way to ensure that you are who you say you are. And what we're seeing is that's a key component of our customers as they move towards zero trust. And we're looking at a time horizon where everyone has to be adopted zero trust across the DoD by November of 27. So a lot of people are using this as kind of an easy way to start that process.
So this was a bit of a forward-looking question, but it's closer than most people realize. Quantum computing has the potential to break the encryption standards, and what I want to know is what the actual impact of that is and how VSO is already preparing for all of this.
Yeah, so everyone has talked about post-quantum cryptography. It's been a threat for quite a while as soon as they figured out quantum computing. Depending on what you read, quantum computing is still 3 to 4 years out, but it could come a lot faster. It all depends on the big vendors in the marketplace. But NIST in 2024 certified some post-quantum cryptography schemes, if you will, as part of that. And what we've done is we're already adopting those in our cloud environments, because all the major CSPs already adopt these cryptography techniques out of the box. So we're already doing things like MLKM, MLDSA as part of our encryption approach to protect and safeguard that data in the cloud environment. And really the cloud isn't just like with CMMC with the templates. This is another area where moving to the cloud, you have the availability of that technology on day one as you move into that environment.
Because waiting until it's here, you'll already have lost.
You're already. It's like the people that are still using MD5 that was broken 25 years ago for their passwords. You're going to be, with AES 256 even, you're going to be in a position where that's going to happen again.
All right. So, Gary, compliance reporting for CMMC and NIST is one of the most time-consuming things out there. It's resource intensive and burdens all these DIB companies and organizations. What role does AI play in automating this compliance, and what is VSO doing to get better at this?
Yeah, I think that policy compliance is one of the ongoing policy compliance is one of the biggest challenges that people have an issue with, especially as they move to more of a dynamic risk management framework, where we're not just doing a scan once a month or once a year and updating paperwork. We're leveraging compliant AI as part of this to help us generate those reports on an ongoing basis, so we're always ready to look at compliance. We're using things like Claude or OpenAI in our clouds as part of our governance posture to make sure that they're at the appropriate levels, looking at things like policy adherence, making sure that we're doing that type of reporting. So it really automates the process and makes it more efficient, as opposed to someone going out there and ticking off or looking at a scanner as part of that.
Gary, what are the risks? Because I'm sure there's potential risks in using AI and AI adoption and managed services for the DIB. And how does VSO, or what is VSO doing to mitigate those risks?
We're ensuring that the AI models that are being brought in are deployed in the correct way. We want to make sure, because you can deploy anything any way you want, really, without controls. But when we deploy those models, we're using standardized compliant models, but we're also making sure we're putting the guardrails in place to make sure their data stays within their enclave. We're not allowing their data to be used to train someone else's model or things of that. So they're going to have the total benefit of the AI model, but it's only going to be for them. So it's not only is it making sure that it's applicable to their business, but it's protecting their data, make sure it's only accessible to them and not no one else.
So VSO addresses it with data isolation,
Correct.
zero training.
As part of the typical kind of cloud structure that our managed services team is deploying out there. They're, one of our DIB customers is not going to be sharing the same enclave with another DIB customer.
Correct.
Because we have to maintain that data guardrails and separation between our clients.
So the human element in cybersecurity is irreplaceable. Keeping DIB teams trained, ready against any adversary is key. How can AI assist in this training and the workforce training for cybersecurity?
Yeah, I think it's one of the big benefits of AI is the increased efficiency, and one of the areas around that is training as part of that, because it can create simulations, attack cases that can be used to train next generation of cybersecurity, take advantage of the wealth of information that's out there for our cyber warriors, if you will, and allow them to see situations and simulations before it actually happens. So we can use AI to create that and see how they respond, and then identify any gaps in our posture if they exist, which I think we do a pretty good job at implementing those security controls. So I think it's more about staying ahead of the curve with AI so it can see things that we may not ever intend to introduce into our environment, but we'll understand the impact if it does get in.
So Gary, resources in the DIB space are finite. Allocating them effectively across a complex multi-cloud security environment is very hard. How does VSO, or in what way does VSO use AI to properly allocate those resources?
So we use the cloud available tools like Azure OpenAI or Amazon's Bedrock platforms to help us identify areas that we can optimize and move towards that. And we're continually running those models to make sure that we're giving the appropriate thing. That's one of the things that the cloud is really good for, is dynamically changing your landscape, if you will, to make sure that you're using the most effective resources as part of your kind of cost model. We want to use AI to secure your environment, do logging, auditing, things of that nature, but we can also use it to make sure it's sized appropriately as part of that. So we're leveraging those native tools and introducing automation where we possibly can, which AI, again, is great at.
So Gary, last question for you. How does AI enhance all this data encryption practices inside VSO's managed services?
Yeah, so we leverage that AI to make sure that the encryption is at the right level. So we're already implementing post-quantum cryptography as part of that because it's been around for a couple of years. So when we move people into that, we use that. But we also use AI as part of the logging and auditing and to identify weak encryption in their environments that they may have brought over in an application, something of that nature. So we're constantly scanning with our AI tools to make sure that the data is protected, that we have encryption turned on in all their data environments, whether it's EBS or Azure Blob Storage, whatever it may be. We're leveraging those AI tools to make ourselves more efficient. That's the real thing with AI, is driving efficiency into this environment.
And all of this is a foundational element of protecting CUI.
Absolutely, yeah, as part of it. And not even CUI, but their own data, because there's no sense in not protecting their own data at the end of the day, because some of them may say CUI is the government's data, but we want to protect our data too as well. So,
all right.